Musibire muta, mwasibye mutya, amahoro, agandi, byaibo, habari gani, muraho, sangonini, kopango, odeo. For those of you who are wondering what that was, these are some of the various local greetings found in East Africa's diverse languages. Welcome to She Center, the female podcast, where I dive into the issues and experiences that affect women everywhere. I am your host, Resti Kansime, and I am passionate about creating a safe space for women to share their stories and triumphs. I want to thank you for tuning into my podcast, and I would love for you to join our community and stay connected with us beyond this episode. You can find us on Instagram at _She Center _podcast, and follow us on Facebook at the She Center Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and hit that follow and like button on our social media to be part of the conversation. Hey, welcome back to yet another episode of She Center, the female podcast. I am thrilled to have you here, and I hope that you are enjoying yourself. I cannot believe it's already December. Happy December, Merry Christmas. I know that Uganda is a blast during this season, so I'm hoping that everyone is enjoying themselves, and thank you for taking the time through your busy schedule of enjoyment to listen to yet another episode. I am thrilled to have the new listeners here. Please, if you haven't gotten the chance to listen to our previous season or the other episodes, just scroll down. There is so much information that you can learn from the previous season where we answered the question, what happened to you? There's so many games in there you can pick up. In this season, I have so many amazing guests, and I am learning so much. Oh, who knew the word purpose could open up your eyes? I am learning so much from different people who are sharing about their purpose and what they think about purpose. I did have an idea about what purpose could be, but now my brain is opening up wider, and I'm loving the fact that every guest that's coming on is teaching me something new, because it's going to also help me with the whole, planning for the She Center platform. So my guest today, Please, before I forget, I would please request for you to like, share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I'm really trying to grow there. I'm new on the whole YouTube video podcasting scene, and I would really want your support. So please subscribe, go and subscribe and share this episode, and do whatever it is that is necessary. Comment if you feel like you have to do that. Anyways, so my guest today is called Christina Lunkuse. Christina is a co-founder of Tonda. Tonda is a marketing platform, a digital marketing platform where you can go in Uganda. It's in Uganda. I guess it's only in Kampala at the moment, but it's a place where you can go to put an event. If you have events that are coming up and you want them to be, to be easily found, for you to find a community of people who can be able to easily access you. But it's also a place where if you're new into the city, or if you just want to meet up with a friend and go say hi and catch up, you can be able to find what event is happening around you. You don't have to ask people, what's the plan? You just have to go. And I really love that idea, because living here in Germany, it's so easy to find so many things. I could literally just move into any country in Europe and go on the app and find so many websites or so many apps that can be able to help me navigate the social life as well as everything else. So I'm hoping that all of you guys who are listening to this, who live in Kampala or who are planning to go to Kampala, are going to be able to learn so much from the behind the scenes of how this whole idea came about. I am so happy to have had Christina on the podcast, because I've been watching her from the sidelines. I've seen the work that she's doing, and it's so amazing, because it's something that I'm a huge, I'm getting into tech. I love finding everything online. I think that started when I moved into Germany. So I was very happy that someone is starting this kind of app, because She Center is also going to be a digital platform. So, digital platforms are the future. Anyways, so a little bit about Christina. She has 10 years experience in corporate finance, and she ventured out into entrepreneurship. But I love the way that she describes her role as a co-founder on Tonda, because she kind of takes us along the journey to explain to us how she has gone through mentorship to figure out what she wanted to do, who she wanted to become, and what she needed to do to be a better version of herself. And she found out that her love for math and analytics and, well, this girl is a geek. I don't want to call her a geek, but she was talking about math, and I was like, you make it seem like math is so easy. It's not that easy. Anyways, so she is a huge fan of analyzing stuff. She likes problem solving, and she has learned so much because she talks about how all this has stemmed from her sense of community. Like, she has always wanted to be a part of the community because her parents raised her and her siblings to be able to cater for the community around them. And this is something that she has been doing from when she was young, as you find out, where her and her sister would organize charity events for Christmas and do different things. They even opened up a library, imagine, at a really young age. But anyways, her professional journey has really shaped her thinking, and I think she's the right person to start this kind of platform. And I'm sure that you guys are going to learn so much from this episode, because I tell you, I really wish I had a notepad, but I'm glad that I have this episode to listen to every time I feel like I need to catch up on some of those things. Tina really really dropped some information here that any person out there that is figuring out how to be into, how to get into, entrepreneurship and starting out a business and figuring out life from when you are a student, this episode is for you. And yeah, so I hope that you guys get to listen to it until the end, because I feel like this is something that is going to really, really challenge your way of thinking and looking at purpose. I loved how Christina, I will apologize because I was warned not to call her Tina. If at any point during this episode I said Tina, please, I apologize, Christina. Anyways, guys, without further ado, here's Christina Lunkuse. Enjoy. Hi, Christina. How are you doing?
Hi, Rusty. I'm good. I'm okay.
That's good to know. How
Gosh.
I want to start off with, of course, talking about She Center. We've been chatting before this,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you kind of have an idea of what the platform is about, like in detail, not that much in detail, but just to give you like a breakdown of why this topic in this season.
Yeah.
Not only am I not, like, when I started the podcast, when you start something and later on you're like, wait a minute, this could turn into this. So after talking to a few people, and every time because I have to not only edit the audios, but I have to like write down what, like I've said, to write the summary. And through that, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me of my master's thesis.
Yeah. How?
Transcribing, and because I
Oh,
feel
the
like I'm transcribing,
transcribing.
and then I have to,
Yeah.
like when I'm writing the intro, like the episode description, I feel like I'm putting so much thought in it. It felt like I was writing like a research thing. I was like, oh my God, I initially wanted to do my PhD around this topic of female empowerment. And someone told me, sometimes if you're not sure what you want to research, just start with what you're passionate about. And along the way, you realize that you have a lot of things that you need. And now I have 43 in-depth interviews from
Oh, wow.
women. I
Yeah.
know. I was like, what more?
Congrats.
Like, by the time this podcast is done, I don't think I will need to do any research. I will have everything I need. And so when I was going to like, I took a break because honestly, I took the break because I was in Kampala and recording was not possible. First of all, like, there's like weather conditions which affect the internet, and then we had stuff we were doing all the time. So I was like, you know what? Let me take a break. I posted, and then while in that break, I was like, I need to change it from what happened to you. Like, I've listened to people's stories of what has happened to them. I need something that is going to be changed. So when I came up with, I was like, purpose. Purpose seems to be like something that, all of us are trying to discover. So when I chose the word purpose and I did the research on what I can ask, I was like, this would be a perfect, like, thesis description, like what happened
Yeah.
to you, and then how to relate it with purpose, because I feel like these two are so like they have a correlation. What has happened to someone because many people, when they were explaining what happened to them, it always concluded with, that's where I am, that's where the way I'm passionate about this, where that's why I'm doing this. So now I was like, okay, let me ask people, are you living in your purpose? And if not, how are you navigating that season, and how is
Yeah.
everything going? And I felt so happy that I landed into this, like I literally like just fell into these things of purpose. And
Yeah.
I'm loving where it's going, because every person I talk to is opening my mind, and I'm like practically researching, because I was like, I reached out to a doctor. I'm like, yeah, I need you to come into my podcast, talk about purpose, you're inspiring people with it. She's like, I'm still figuring out my purpose. I'm like, you are a doctor. Like, you are a doctor. What else are you? She then later on, when I
Yeah.
recorded her, it turns out her life is a mixture of so many things. Like, she's into music, she's into creation, she's into
Not
this.
just a
So
doctor. Yeah.
exactly, she's not just a doctor. And I was like, that's so amazing, because I could look at your profile and I'll be like, oh, Christina, her purpose is in business, creating business, and then when you actually get to talk to the person, you realize they have so much more that just comes out as creating these things that they are doing in life. So that's why
Yeah.
I reached out to you, because I see, you're creating something that's so beautiful. I'm really into like tech these days. I feel like we really need to like change how we are receiving things in Uganda. Like, we can't go on the street asking people, where can I find this? You guys, what's happening? Remember at campus, what's the plan? Is it
What's up,
Kasabi? Is
man?
it like, guys, where are we going? Panamera, Kasabi? Like, we can't go about asking that, guys. We are in an era
Yeah.
of technology, like where you literally just go on Google, fun plot happening next to me, and I find an app that has everything that I need. Or I am, and also I think this is something that the government should be happy about, because this is something that can solve tourist problems. Because
Yeah.
me, most times when
And
I'm
tourism
touring
is a
into
big
a
thing
city
now.
and I Google something like what to do they always lead you onto an app where you find everything that's happening. We have that in Germany here as well. So I
Yeah.
was so happy when Brenda told me that you guys are starting something. I even have the app on my phone. By the way, I already
Nice.
downloaded it. I was like, this is something that is so helpful. And I was happy that it's not only focusing on like plot of, happening. Like, I saw
Yeah.
Christian things, I saw all these things. So that's something that I was like,
Very,
I
very
really
good.
need to talk to Christina. I really want to know, like, because behind what someone is putting out into the world, there's something that has inspired it, that is pushing them. And for me, my purpose is, I feel like I have a gift of, I love to talk, like communicate with people. So yeah, you can start out by introducing yourself, and then maybe what you do, and you can answer the question. Let me ask the question. As we begin, do you feel that you're living in your purpose right now, and how has your journey shaped this sense of purpose for you?
So, I am Christina Lunkuse. I
Christina.
live emphasis.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm Christina Lunkuse. I am a co-founder of Tonda, which is a digital platform. It's a marketplace, really. It's an app that helps that what we are using to make social events easier to create, to attend, and to discover, really, and to find. We want it easier. We want to make it easier for people to find like where to go, what to do when they're looking for social type activities. And social
Yeah.
activities can be like recreational, or it can be leisure, or they can even be business related, right? So we have both types of events, but we also want it to be easier for vendors of these activities, the businesses that
Yeah.
host these activities, to make it easier for them to have a place where they showcase what they have. There'll be things like reviews. We have it up now, but it doesn't yet have things like reviews. But we want it just easier for them to kind of get feedback from their customers. We want it to become easier for them to engage with their customers, target particular demographic. It's very interesting. So in Uganda, if you go to like a bar or a restaurant, the crowd on Monday is very different from the Tuesday, very different from the Wednesday, very different from the Thursday, and that's very intentional.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least the majority of these places, and it's very difficult for them to keep like track of all those people and target. And they know this type of event is for this crowd, but finding that crowd, and no one wants to like be on a WhatsApp group for how many vendors. So we just want it easier to vendors to
Yeah.
to find their audience, send that kind of information to them. So we're using technology and a recommendation engine that allows people to which builds profiles of people, and is able to say, okay, if it's Resty, we know that Resty likes poetry. She also likes theater. She
Yeah.
doesn't really go for the party recommendations. She's always like, swiping those
Yeah.
away. She likes, she prefers maybe the
Yeah.
outdoor activities. She likes things that happen during the day. She's a very branchy. She likes brunch. Versus, let's say, if you say Christina,
Yes.
Christina seems to really like things to do with band. She likes game nights. She was always looking for game nights. She likes parties, but she only parties on Friday. She's never accepted anything on Saturday. On Saturday, on Sunday, Saturday, she seems to like. So you want like, and it's an intelligent engine that's able to understand these things about the different people are using. And so when a vendor is able to say, "Oh, I have a quiz," and this, and it's able to prompt like, describe this thing that you're hosting, the app should be able to then push that to the kind of person who's interested in it, because over time it starts to
Yeah.
understand the users. So yeah,
Yes.
technology, like you, is a
That's
very
the future.
big
Yeah.
part. The future,
Yes.
it's the
Yeah.
present. And my background is not in technology. My background is in finance. Specifically investment advisory for businesses. I've spent the last maybe almost 10 years of my life doing that, maybe 9 years of my life doing building a career in corporate finance, advising businesses about money. You want to looking at business goals, looking at the capital they're receiving. Can you afford it? Can you return it to the investors with the profits that they want? How do you ensure that it's efficiently utilized? That's really what I used to do. So there was a bit of strategy, but a lot of also like number crunching and like connecting dots.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was I was living in a different, I think, season of my life then. I was
Yeah.
fully employed and thriving in terms of that type of when you're on that journey. If you look at the plain description of what success looks like, I had a very exciting career. Yeah, and what you asked, maybe what has shaped it. To be honest, I think I've so I think I have a very strong. It's a lot of what I do is personality driven and natural competencies. So I don't know if you're familiar with like Myers-Briggs. So their personality type. I'm an INFJ. So it's like it's an introverted type of personality. Yeah, so it's introverted, intuitive, feeling, and judgment. Those words all have meanings, but generally, those types of people are very passionate, have an advocacy. They desire to be advocates for something. My parents are very advocacy type people. I think that's where that's from. In their own fields, they are not advocates by profession, but the way they go about their lives was always, were
Yeah.
always involved in the community. Were always the kids, like Brenda and I were always. Brenda is my sister. We were always like, planning the Christmas plays. We lived in a Makere estate for lecturers because my mother was a lecturer, and we were always like, we're the ones planning Christmas plays. We used to, donate money. I think there was a school for the deaf. Like there was always like stuff we were doing. Holiday time, we ran a library. I remember we ran a library where we had this. One of the neighbors had an auntie in Canada who used to send books, and then we used to charge 500 shillings to like take the
Are
book.
you serious?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it wasn't a business, but my dad explained to me that if you don't pay for something, they don't value it. So we used
Yeah.
to tell him that, yeah, we'll keep your money because the books were coming to us for free. We were children, we don't need. I mean, I think he should have made us pay like and teach us some business ethics. But again, because they're very like society people, right? Yeah, so we used to like, rent out the books and we just wanted to learn how to read. We would that's why I discovered my love for like reading. So yeah, that's I think I think that was something that spoke to me and maybe it influenced my personality type. I don't know if it influenced my personality type or my personality type influenced my interest in that. I don't know. But
They
yeah,
all work
but
together.
they all work together. I could never be
Yeah.
a social worker. I don't think so.
Mm, mm,
um, because that's now where competencies come from. I'm a very analytical, logical. I like numbers. I like
yeah.
understanding like
Yeah. Yeah.
problems and like logically connecting things and says if A is B. I'm a very mathematic. I have a mathematical mind. I did statistics as my undergraduate. So I think the combination of that, I found purpose in business, in helping businesses grow. I felt like if we had better businesses, rich businesses, thriving businesses in Uganda, then we'd have more people who have money And then if you have more people
Yeah.
who have money, then we have better people can afford health services, they can afford schools, and it's just a better quality of living altogether. And so for me, somehow, somewhere, I felt like the piece to this was business for me.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
for the last couple of years, everything I did was meant to be around like, okay, how do I support businesses and hence corporate finance? So that journey took me to my first job, which was working with companies, I think it was auditing largely, but I never liked auditing because I felt like it was a mathematical process. It's a very rules-based process, which doesn't work very well for my mind because I think math and I like creativity in like structured creativity.
You're making math sound so sexy, and yet all I
It's so
remember is a headache
sexy,
in class.
guys.
All I remember is headache while I was
Headache.
crunching those numbers in class. I don't know how people who passionate like you're passionately talking about math, and I feel like
Yeah.
going back to class. I'm like, did I look at math
Did
a
I miss
different way? Like, were we in the same math classes? It's like you're
Oh my
talking
God.
about what, like
Yeah.
something that's so easy. But that's quite interesting. That's quite interesting for how
Yeah.
something that could be like, why did I study this thing? And then you see someone who studied it actually love what it has
Yeah.
brought out into their life. That's it's amazing to see you talk about math like this. Your math teacher will be very proud.
You'll be very, very proud. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
like
But
formulas. I
that's
think
really cool.
the thing about math that I liked is formulas. I like that if you say A and you get B and you put C,
Your
you
mind is
get
like, you have a
get.
light bulb,
And
like,
I'm
I
like,
need to
okay,
fix
so I just
this.
need to figure out A and I need to figure out B
Yeah.
and if I have unknown variables as well, I like to see what is the formula. I believe that there's a
Yeah.
formula to life. So it's not one and it's not a one size fits all, which
Yes,
at the end is
yes.
also what like mathematics understands that not if things don't fit like this, they also work under. Remember when I did statistics at university, and my lecturer, like we had this course called real analysis. I didn't understand it, and the guy was telling us one plus one is not to prove. I was like, eh? What? And
What
that,
is
and
that?
honestly, like university education will come to purpose and what I think about that. But then I remember I was talking to my brother-in-law. He's married to Elisa, my other sister, and he's a now him is like I think a mathematical genius. And he was so him he studied of course like in better schools. He grew up in Germany, in the US. He studied in the US. He has a firm understanding. And I was telling him, we're learning one plus one is not. And he said, oh, I think you're learning about like how math works in an anti like gravitational space. I said,
It's
eh?
like you just put word to something that my teacher was forcing us to understand. By the way, that's something that I have also noticed
Yeah.
about the teachers back home. They're teaching us the right thing. Sometimes they're just not explaining it in detail. Like they
They're
just
not
say, yes,
teaching.
because I said so.
They're
And
not
for me, I'm
teaching.
like,
They're
I want to
telling us.
understand why. Yeah, they are
Yeah.
telling
They don't.
exactly. I like that. Like they tell us,
They
but they
just told
don't
us.
teach us. I
Yeah.
realized like when I got here to do my masters also that there were so many things that I was in classes like I have all this knowledge, but someone can give one statement which answers everything that I'm trying to answer in like a paragraph. And my exams were
Literally.
60 minutes, 6 questions, 10 minutes per question. In
Question.
Uganda, 3 hours, 4 questions. Every question, they even give you time for summary. I froze in my first exam. And they were like, when I talked to my teacher, he was like, yeah, we're teaching you critical analyzing. Like, just understand what are they
Critical
saying?
thinking.
What is
Yeah.
the methods have been? What methods have been used to do this research? And what is your conclusion? I'm like, okay, I need to take a step back. So I like that you brought this up because it's something that I realize it's very, very common in
Yeah.
with our
Yeah.
thinking back home. Yeah, with education. So that you must have
Yeah.
been happy to find someone who was thinking at your level, like
Yeah.
with regards to
So he was just
math.
like, yeah, I think that's like math. So you see, he was saying, for example, even now, like, we were discussing, he explained like how if you throw accelerations at the speed of gravity, if it's like, but if you're in space, that formula doesn't hold because there's like, so he was like, there are spaces where formulas don't hold. And I said, isn't that still great? Like, so you can still go to a whole new universe and then create new formulas that, you know, yeah. So I think, so
Wow.
I'm drawn to, and I think businesses are the same when you go to one industry and you're doing farming of cassava versus, you're trying to process and sell, cassava chips. versus someone who is processing and selling orange juice. It's a different. You need to go take a step back and say, okay, what's at work here? There are foundations that allow you to think about problems, but yeah. So I think when you ask what has shaped my journey, I think it's a combination of my natural aptitude for. I say math, and even that I don't think it was like very brilliant math because I'm not. I don't like abstract math. I don't like abstract things like thinking about. Or I like the tangibility, right? I like things that I can put in front of me and say, okay, how is this working? And what is the solution? There has to be also be an end. Like there has to be a purpose to what we are doing. I can't
Yes, yes.
endlessly just solve formulas that have no meaning. Yeah. So I liked also like 'cause I felt with businesses I had strong I could see that if you figure out like supply and you figure out capital, and I felt like the biggest gap people we had in business here was money. um, I have a startup. I'm living that experience. We talked about She Center.
Yeah.
Looking for capital is expensive. It's difficult. There's so many things that are just blockers. And I wanted to be in a space where I was helping to solve that problem. And so for the first part of my career, I would say that I feel that my purpose and my work were one and the same, which is not the case now. My purpose and my work were one and the same. I was very driven to supporting businesses to grow by giving them capital, which is also like a very mathematical. But yeah, helping them give them capital, understanding their
Yes.
goals, and helping them look at their goals, test the realistic, like is this goal really possible? Is the missing
Now
piece
I'm understanding
money?
where you were critically analyzing my conversation earlier.
Yeah, you are saying like I said, just type it out.
Here I was just feeling like, okay, I'm just telling her about this. Because most times I meet people, I'll just tell them, yeah, this is my vision. So they'll be like, oh, okay, interesting. But I saw you taking notes. I'm like, okay, Resty, think harder. I was like, wait, she's taking notes. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Now that you're explaining, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Because if you
It's
say
on my
like, because
mind.
I think for you, you are like, okay, she's saying this. Now I have to put these two
Yeah.
together. That's amazing. So do you do this all the time? Like, do you have those moments where you can just be like, let me leave this equation unsolved. I'm not going to get into
Yes.
it. Or does your brain always feel like I need to fix this in my head? Like I need to add A and B and C together. You have your times when you just let it be, yeah?
Yeah, I have to have reason for like I told you, I have to have I have to like the outcome. So and I have to have reason. So as I've grown, I've also learned that I have to care about the outcome. I have to because first you can't solve a problem. You have to start like figuring problems you can and can't solve. So I
Yeah,
am
true.
more drawn. Yeah, so I assess how important is it that this outcome is realized, and is it me who's meant to help that outcome realize? If I feel strongly about that, then I'll try to see it through. If I can't, yeah, then I just okay. That's I hope like that I hope that that business figures out what they're trying to do, and all
Yeah.
the best to them. Yeah,
Well, I hope She Center is
yeah.
one of those that you feel like you need to support. Because, man, business to me, like, I remember when I was in Uganda, I was, after uni, I was selling stuff. I first did my first like field work, and then I saved up money and I bought stuff and I bought, but I would sit with my money. And I would be like, okay,
Yeah.
I've sold, I've made
No.
profit. I know I have more money because I know I've sold these things. And I'll be telling my husband, I don't know where my money is. My husband is like, resty, resty, resty. I'm like, guys, I just know how to sell and how to approach customers. But this money is just sitting here and I don't know. First of all, I don't know how much profit I've made. I don't know how this and that's then that I realize it's not my thing. Like it's like the
No.
I loved math like at some point in school, but I do realize that there are some people because my husband would just in 1 second tell me, yeah, this is what did you sell? What did you do this? He will get the money and he'll be like, okay, yeah, this is your profit. This and I'm like, how did you do that? Because for me to take me like I would literally write a risk like a statement. I sold bought this at this price and I sold this at this price. Back in the day, I didn't know. My husband even built for me an Excel sheet, and trust me, not, I would still go back to him and I'd be like, these things are not making sense.
No,
So I
Excel
think we
wouldn't.
always need people like that in life who help us
Yeah.
to make practical what we are struggling with because our strength lie in different areas, and I'm guessing for you
Exactly.
it would be stressful to go and have to sell like something probably like on the street or whatever. It would be like, no, there's nothing sense in it. I just want to be behind the analytics of this. So that's amazing. I'm realizing so much
Until
about this
until you start
conversation.
your own business. then
Oh yes, 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 yes. So
until you
yeah,
start
let's
your
get
business.
into. You
But
mentioned
yeah,
something about how that was your purpose then. So how did you make that shift from corporate to entrepreneurship?
I I stopped. What I think what actually happened was that I stopped seeing. So and there's something you said about you're growing your business. So even now you're doing She Center, you feel like it's your purpose. But even where you're finding purpose in She Center, it has changed and evolved. So you said out as, oh, you were passionate about doing. You mentioned you were purpose. You were excited about female empowerment as a PhD subject or topic. You wanted to hear women's stories, but as you said, hearing women's stories, you said wanting to understand the concept. Okay, but like beyond what happened to you, like what are you doing with your life? How are you finding, I guess, fulfillment, or and trying to understand like what does that look like? So it's the same, I think, and I think that's normal. You only learn by doing, and as you grow, you receive certain inputs, and then you change a little bit, and then your goals also adapt, or they also grow, they shift. You have to keep having like
Yeah,
a, if you're in
yeah.
motion, then your goal also has to keep in motion, so that there's progress. Yeah, so as I started working a lot with local businesses, yeah, because my first two jobs were like with multinational companies. A lot of my clients were not Ugandan. Um, they were just, they had subsidiaries in Uganda, but headquarters were either in South Africa or London, maybe some few in Kenya. And then I just started to feel like this is not like, yes, it's great for experience and training because you're learning at a very high fast rate and with like proven methodologies that help you start to get good foundation, but it's not helping. The outcome was no longer meaningful for me. Okay, so this international company is going to become richer, that money is going to go back to the like UK, as we are here. These are
In
communities I care
Uganda,
about.
I know. Yeah,
They're in
true, true.
Uganda. I want to see that, okay, but when you make these investment decisions, even the things that drive them are not the figures
Yeah,
here. This is just like one branch in their
yeah.
mammoth of an
They
enterprise.
can even close it when things don't
They
go
can
well.
even close it, and for them,
Yeah.
he won't even think twice. So, the boss won't think twice. So after a while, I said desiring to come closer to ground, and I then moved to a local company that was, trying to support local, very small businesses. I did that for about 3 years, and I then realized that these businesses, a lot of money for business ecosystem, and these guys need a different type of money, right? So a lot of money that supports that ecosystem is like from big development partners. And so I then moved to another company that was working closer with those development partners, because I was saying, if you're going to decide that you're going to run an investment program for youth and women-led businesses in Uganda, let the people who understand, the context, have worked with these
True,
companies,
true.
have been on the
Yeah.
ground, should be at the table when the designs are being made. And that's what now I started working towards. But after a while, I realized it doesn't matter how much money you pump into something. If the soil you're pumping into is not fertile, like the seeds won't grow. And I
Yo.
think that's like even very, very close to like
Yes.
it's very close to like there's a parable of the sower in the Bible, that it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
you're trying to invest and pump money and pump money and pump money, but the people you're pumping, because businesses are built by people. Money is one ingredient. There are many ingredients, but people are at the heart of business. If you're not really investing in building people, it doesn't matter how much money you pump.
Very true.
So that's the thorny ground, right? That's the rocky ground. That's the path. Like, it doesn't matter, even if you plant the best seed. And I started to feel deeply dissatisfied with that outcome. I realized this pumping money solves for a certain type of problem. It solves for places where the people are ready. They know what to do. They know how to build businesses, and I don't know. I had also seen that at my previous organization, where we really worked with entrepreneurs, and I said it like at founders, and there's like a whole journey there. So I just figured that, you know what, we're in an economy where the best and brightest people are absorbed by these multinational companies, or there's brain drain, they leave the country. That's what's happening. The current statistic for Uganda, there's this thing called the Human Capital Index by the World Bank, which measures the productivity of someone in terms of their professional and economic potential and the extent to which they're going to realize that. So they do it in percentages. Ideally, you want to be at 100%, right? But the best economies are like at 88%, which means that if you are a child born in that economy, as an adult, you're probably going to achieve at least 88% of your potential. You have that's you're likely to achieve 88%. That's the average person is 88%. Uganda is at 34% for us who are born before 2020. So everyone who's an adult, like that's the average,
Wow.
given the quality of education, given the access to opportunities and the quality of those opportunities, like to learn, and of course, health. So they said, and so people who have health issues, stunting, malnutrition are even lower, but the average. And I don't know, Rusty, like there's a way you are when you're around. So there's a thing where they say you're the average of the five people you spend you're the
Time with,
most
yeah.
time with, right? And you can even see like sometimes it's so funny, even like distressed when you find like new moms and they're just like constantly around their kids and they're like, I'm tired of thinking about just kids. Like I have to
Yes,
because
yes.
your
My
mind
brain
starts to
is like
think
your,
about
yeah, you
different.
start to
Your brain starts just like
yeah.
you
You're
I can't talk
singing.
to people, you're singing
Baby
kids.
shark do 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 do.
So it's just that's how
I
the
know,
brain works.
yeah.
And then
Yeah,
also if you're
yeah.
around really highly driven people, you also like start to think different. You solve your
Yes,
problems
that's very
differently.
true. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
so if you're in a country, even if you're not at 38% or you're not at 34%, even if the average person around you is at that level, like okay, best case you'll get 50. Do you
It's
understand?
so true. That's so true.
So,
Yeah.
so I think that and I felt so distraught when I read that because I said no one has ever talked about this in all the programs I have run. And I've led like $1 million programs, supporting entrepreneurs. And anyway, so human capital index is one of the is like my thing that I just be there like, hey.
It is. That's
You
very
can
true.
it's something you can change as an individual by investing in yourself. If you're put in a good work environment and there's training and there's development, if you go to a strong university and the way they teach is like different and all
Yeah.
that, it works. But if you're not and you're just like hoping that whatever they taught you at school and whatever is enough and you're not going to push yourself, it doesn't work. So I'm now feeling very passionate about, I call it like in my mind, like productivity multiplication. I want to, and Tonda has become a place where I live that purpose through. So when you ask me my purpose and my job, Tonda is the thing that excites my like at a competency level, like solving a problem. I believe in community. I want to make community more accessible to people. That's something I feel passionate about. I want you like the way you say, like when you said even like services, when you speak about, oh, what's accessible? Food is accessible. There's delivery services for that. We're getting to healthcare being more accessible. There's delivery services for that. You can. It's not as accessible, but in a way, there's so much investment in making things. We can work remotely. We can study remotely. We are having this remotely, right? But the
Yeah.
need for human connection is as important as air and water and food. And it is not substituted for by virtual communication. Virtual communication helps us achieve a lot more. It helps increase our productivity, but in the wholesomeness of a human being,
Yeah.
they need to have people they talk to. Like human beings, that's why the worst punishment in prison is isolation, because that's the worst thing you can do. And they still feed you, but the person runs mad. There's a level of like they will not, they are less likely to repeat that act because no one wants to be alone. And why I'm building Tonda is to solve exactly for that, to make it more worth an investment for someone who's thinking, when you think about your business opportunity, think about a communal space. Think about a gardens where weddings can happen. Think about an activity, candle making, that brings people together to do something together. That's what I want, and I want it to become easier for someone to say, I want to do this. How will I find the right people? Go on Tonda, we'll provide you a service, you pay for it. We'll push your information to people who have expressed interest in things like that. at least you will reach your audience. You'll be able to engage your audience. You can be able to transact. They can even transact through it because they trust us. If they don't trust you, they trust Tonda. And they're like, okay, I'll pay Tonda. If man, I go and the thing is not there, there's no candles to be made, and the guy is on it, vibes, I can get my refund. Like we are going to become your trust builder because communities are built around trust. So for us, we are trying to become a trust organization that makes it easy for you to find your community, to find what to do. You have 20 minutes, maybe you have 2 hours in a day. You're trying to catch up with a girlfriend you haven't met in a long time. You should be able to go and ask, like, what can I do? I'm literally 2 hours. I'm tired. I'm this, and that's where AI is allowing us to go, right? So we just want to make community more accessible. But that's what Tonda is doing. That's what I'm excited about in terms of work, and that's a problem I'm excited about solving, but I live my purpose through Tonda. For Tonda, because we use technology, technology is built by people, improved by robots, right? That's where artificial intelligence comes in. But you need people to like build this technology, and I can't like. And for us, what I'm passionate about is ensuring that creating an organization where the people who come to Tonda are ready to start their own businesses because they have learned what it takes to start a business. They have watched and learned and experienced it. They have the courage to do it, and they have experienced the joy of bringing products to life. Or they're going to become like the best workers. If it's an HR, let her be the best HR that ever lived. If it's a CEO, let people leave Tonda and become leading CEOs that are visionaries in their own country, in their own companies. Like they have a founder's mindset. They understand how to build productivity. They understand how to. That's my purpose. That's how I think about my business. So even recently, we're recruiting developers. That's a journey for another day, but a story for another day. But the pain of finding technology talent to build this product has been the hardest thing of all. Everyone thought, oh, it would be money. I thought it would be money. I thought it is finding people who are willing to sit with you, hear your vision, and build and do good work. And just do good work. Like, yeah, but anyway, that's my purpose now is instead of complaining about that, if I hire someone, I have to make sure that okay, if there's someone senior, they're helping them learn. And that even if they're with me for 6 months, they leave and those 6 months have transformed their skill into something that is so high. I'm tired of that. Uganda, it's so hard to find talent because it's true. It's hard to find talent. The companies don't grow. Ugandan companies don't penetrate other markets. All the other markets are coming to Uganda because the people are not thinking about expansion. They're not. We don't have the grit. We don't have the courage. We don't have the hard work. We don't have the skills. And all these organizations are just kind of stunted. You know, you're in a bank, and what is the newest thing that bank has done in the last 15 years? What is it? Digital banking. Like, is that really the best thing that you understand? But those are people who can pay. They have the balance sheets that work. But if the shareholders of those companies are not local, they don't think about talent like that. You know, that bank is a small dot in a myriad of, the CEOs are coming from abroad to be CEOs in our banks. It's only now that I think banks are having local CEOs, and that's a win, right? That's like a win. I can't wait for now a CEO in Uganda to become a CEO like in another country, and we know that our talent is now building to that, like to lead. They are taking up other offices, but we want here a CEO name over financial institution, over telecom
With
institution,
Uganda.
over hospital. Like we need to expand, So anyway, trying to that I feel is my purpose. And when I hear causes, like if I hear like when you ask me, can you solve all problems? No, but if I hear a problem and I hear that someone is solving for that piece in the problem, that's a purpose I'm happy to be attached to, right? Like, oh, you're trying to improve productivity of skill of how to work, how to make money, how to be aggressive and how to get things done, how to be reliable, of and make people more productive and just give them a better capacity to earn. I mean, yeah. So that's how the purpose has
I feel like
changed.
I'm in class. I should have taken notes.
I'm very excited about
I
it.
love. There's so many things that you have said that were like, you put them in business terms and you explain them so you articulated them so well, but there are things that I've also been struggling with, and they are the source of my inspiration to create She Center. Because
Yeah.
like you said, like your thinking changes a lot When I was in
Yeah.
Uganda, you're just there. You're just living. You're like, okay, I have this problem. I can go here. I can do this. Like, that's it.
Exactly.
Until I
That's
came here and I realized people solve problems different. Like every time I was telling someone I want to do this, they'll be like, YouTube it. Go check on Google. Go to this app. Go to this website. And I'm like, these guys have an app and a website for everything that solves everything. That's when I was telling you when I was planning my wedding, and I had to plan everything from here, and the struggle was real. And when I reached on ground, some services, man, these guys are out there with 1 million subscribers, and they have views, followers and stuff, but no one in the comment is talking about how terrible this person's service
no,
was, because
no.
they have the right to delete the comment when it has
The
been put
comment.
there. You
Yeah.
get? But the thing is, because they have a lot good content, they have a lot of subscribers, everyone is going to them. But then
Yeah.
and this I found out when I was complaining about one of the subscribers I used, and my friend who recommended her to me tells me, oh yeah, that's how she is. You get? But you can't tell her. You can't tell her. You get? Because, like,
Yeah.
you know what? It's done. It's over. And so when I thought about all that, I was like, this is not fair. So it's something also you mentioned is how you can give as much money as you can. I was having this conversation with a lady who is in my village, and she was telling me she needs money to do this, and I told her exactly that. I was like, it won't matter how much money you are given, I don't
Yeah.
think you're ever going to get out of poverty, because
Yeah.
number one, even when you had something that was created for you, you still consider yourself poor as much as you were before you were given that opportunity. And up to
Yeah.
now, that is why your business has refused to thrive, while other people, you can give them half of what you were given. And in one instance, their mind has changed to, okay, I'm no longer poor. I have now this opportunity. And I told her, I was like, you need, and I sat down, I was like, I'm glad this happened, because I was just talking to a cousin of mine who comes from my village, and I was telling her, we need to find a solution to help this lady. And I was telling her, first and foremost, we can't give her money. We need to find how to help her brain to stop thinking that she is poor. And then we need to equip her with the skills. Because then my grandma was like, yeah, almost everyone here is uneducated. What do you expect? For them, they
Yeah.
just, run their businesses to survive. So I was like, my husband would always look at me when the woman is calling me asking for money, and she's like, you're going to give her more money? And I'm like, yeah, what else do I do? And he's like, but you do know that you're enabling her. And I
Yeah.
didn't see it in that way. But then later on, I thought about it. I was like, this is the problem that many of us are facing. I saw the world, is it, they called world remittance? Is it the it's so high for developing countries. Why? Like
Money
these people
moving from the
from,
diaspora to the
exactly,
local,
exactly. It is so high.
like on funny ground.
It is so high. I was when I was presenting my research paper for my master's thesis. Someone was doing a study on this. I was like intrigued. I was like, "You're researching us, the developing country." She was like,
So
"Yeah."
someone
So
who's
when she was
just
explaining,
okay.
she was talking about how the world, actually her correlation, because it was a political science course, her correlation was the remittance in correlation with corruption. The more money is sent into, because there's like a statistic, you can find statistics of the remittance online, like how much
Yes,
money has been
yes,
carried. Yeah. So she
yes.
said the countries that receive the most, corruption seems to
He's the
also be
highest.
increasing, because then these people have money to go through anything. I was like, of course. When I've just received my money from my mom, I'm going to get my passport in 2 seconds. I am going to do everything that I want. I'm going to go to the police. I have money. And that's one thing that made me realize, like, when you have this source where money is coming to you, in some cases, you might not think of a long-term solution
Yeah.
unless that person who is giving you the money sits you down and says, here is how I'm going to give you the money. If you do this, I will give you money. I need to see some change. So I told my cousin, I was like, I need to incorporate this into She Sent, because holistically helping this particular woman is going to be frustrating if she has no skill, Number one, should I know how to run a business? Secondly, her mind is stuck in, like you said, Thorny, like you're practically pouring money into
Yeah,
a deep hole that just keeps
I
getting
did
and getting and
more.
getting and
Yeah,
producing nothing. So I was like, this is something that I need to incorporate also. And she said, because at the end of the day, it's frustrating even for, like you said, companies who are giving money. Like if you give me your money as an investor and you're like, I'm just not going to give any more money to people in this country or here.
yeah,
And
because it's not
also,
doing anything.
it's exactly, and then also it's frustrating for you as the person. Like you said, we have all these problems that we don't even know we have. Like we have been taught in a specific way in class. Like we were given notes, you write notes, you weren't taught how to think. I'm very happy for the new education system where the kids get to write their own notes. I
Yeah.
hope that it really produces better results. But really, like all we did in class, all I remember doing was copying notes and being beaten for not having
We're
notes.
just talked at. Yeah, they just talked at us.
Exactly. The teacher comes
You know
class,
what you did?
he teaches us by, you copy these notes, we have a syllabus to complete, you write the notes, you have all the books, and then now you have to summarize all those books and go like all these notes and sit for an exam. And then you're told you're stupid. And yet the
Yeah.
teacher didn't actually teach you. So I'm very glad that it's like and that's something that I realize, like many of us in Uganda, we are trying to solve more or less the same problem from different angles, but
Different
we are
angles.
scattered. But we are scattered. So you see, I would never have known about your vision by just looking at Tonda. But it
Yeah,
had
because
to
you'll
take me to
assume that,
sit
oh, I
down
think
and ask
her
you.
vision
Yeah,
is
she
to
just
make
wants to make money.
very excited about. No, I mean, I'm very
Exactly.
excited. It's like, and that's the thing. I think people
Yeah.
are very versatile, right? But even when I think about, okay, if I'm able to infuse something about my purpose in the way I make money, where can I infuse it? So you
Yes,
can be very excited
exactly.
about something, but it's not the reason you exist.
Exactly.
So Tonda could
Exactly. Yeah.
change, it could evolve. I could sell it, it could become bigger and I sell it. But I may, even if I sell it and I do something else, who
You
do we
have
partner
solved.
with? So even when you think about who do we partner with, and that's why I think it's like for me, one of the big things about business is if you're trying to do something differently, it can be difficult to do it in the same place. There's that thing around if you're going to change, if a lot of things about you have to change, the people you're around have to change, the kind of conversations you have to change, what
True.
you read changes, like you have to change. And for like even now, so when we talk about productivity multiplication, right? We're doing a hack. So there's another company that on this journey of entrepreneurship and looking for talent, I came across this really like smart group of guys, and they're trying to build an incubator to support founders, right? But they're saying that we need to do it residential. And I was asking, it's called Tattoo Collective. And I was asking them, why does it have to be residential? And they said, because the problem is that there's a big piece around people that we need to solve, and we need to solve that in real time. Like they need to be here, like they're embodying, and we re-educate them as human beings, creating a very conducive environment for them to learn, to be with like-minded people, to shut out the world and just rewire
Yes.
everything
Yes.
they
Yes.
know
Yes.
about
Yes.
how you approach a problem. Everything they've taught you. When someone told you that, oh, 50% is a fail. No, in business, it just means that there's another problem you need to discover. Don't take it personally. Relearn. If someone tells you, oh, don't submit your work until it is complete. No, in business, you have 10%, go to the market with 10%. The market will tell you if they want 30 or if they want 100. Learn
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
build the right 30. Like there's a lot, and then how to think, how to push yourself. If everyone around you is going to sleep, everyone in the office at 5 was signing out. Why should you stay? They even tease you. Going, you overwork. I remember, oh
Are
my God,
they paying you extra?
there's a company I had and I worked at, and they used to speak a lot of Swahili. And they put me in the Kenya office for a while. And I remember sometimes people be like, at 6, actually, this is not my mother's company, but they'd say it in Swahili. And it was so funny. They'd be like, it's like, this is they're like, you're working on 3 projects. Is the shareholder your mom? And like,
Yeah, that's our mentality a lot. Like I remember that
you
school.
understand?
Remember how we'll be reading at school? You'll be like, never soma bagwa. Like even those who
Magua.
would fail.
Like, what is that? You get like
Yeah,
why? So also
yeah,
that like
yeah.
teasing because everyone is trying to bring everyone down to their level, and it's kind of I love that. I really love that, and so we are actually like co-sponsoring with them. It will probably be on our socials next week. A hackathon because we're saying okay, this and they're also focused on tech. So it's like, what does tech talent need? Tech talent, how is tech talent built? You know, how do you start to sieve out the right talent? And so we're doing a hackathon together. A hackathon is where you bring a lot of people who are in technology teams to solve problems, and there's a cash prize. There's going to also be a lot of exposure for those kinds of people. Once they're creating a lead, these are great people, you know, who are. It also helps them like build their skill and get better at solving problems. So that's like a partnership, Tonda, and I'm doing that because I want to be able to live my purpose through Tonda. And so that's like a partnership we're doing with them as a tech company. Them, they're like a
Wow.
tech hub, but that's something they're doing. And I'm like, you know what? That's something I would get behind. Even if I have a little bit of money, I'll throw it behind that because that's helping me live my purpose in line with also my work. So there's a lot of intersections around
Yeah.
purpose and work and who we are as people. But
Yeah.
for sure, like it's I think it's something that yeah I think I'm passionate about both things, but I completely
Yeah.
I hear you on that diaspora thing is crazy, but yeah, and it's but we need to help the people we can. I don't know if you can really help
Yeah.
that woman though. I also don't think everyone can be helped. um
Yeah. I think you
I
can. I think you can
everyone
by
no.
trying. Okay, it will take you a long time, but I have found that because I figured there's a time where she really wanted money, and I just listened to her. I just talked to her, and at the end she said, "Thank you for listening," because I validated her
That's what she
emotions. So
wanted.
I
Yeah,
realized some people like this, they probably need mental health
mentors
coaches, or
or mental
like they
health coach.
need,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
they need. So maybe she needs some kind of counseling to help her
Yeah,
see, like, gain a new perspective. And also maybe she might be one of the episodes coming out tomorrow, the girl who I interviewed was sharing about how when they went to help people in I think Arua or something like that, and she was like, when they got there they realized the problem was so much, like they had she said spiritual, like spiritually you have a, like, you are a desert spiritually. Then secondly, you have no money. Like, they realized that money is not the problem. There were all these things that were causing the poverty in the region. People are not
yeah.
talking to each other. People don't have any fear of God, or they don't have anything that they feel like, okay, I can kill my neighbor if they do something to me because I'm angry at them. So she said that's something that I realized, like, so they had to figure out different ways how to help these people, and not just taking them money as they did initially, because
How
they
to
gave
change
the
the
money.
it's like a
Exactly. So they
mindset.
help.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like that's something, and that leads me to the question, when I reached out to you, you said something about how your purpose is attached to your spirituality. Can you
Yeah.
explain? Yeah. Because I've been hearing you
So
throwing in some verses.
yeah, so and I think it's not like some monumental thing. It's exactly like that. Like when I think about or if there's something in the Bible that like anchors that thought, I then use the Bible to anchor it. And when I was asking you, I was just saying like for me that's how I speak.
Yeah,
It's not
true,
that
true.
okay,
Yeah.
God has called me and said go and do this. I mean maybe one day, but
Could be. Yeah.
you know that's not how I have arrived at where I am. But I was just saying that for me it's a very big part of how I work, how I want to work moving forward. I think about even when we help people, the system has to be like transparent. I ground things on on recently, like even when we like hire and you just like, you know what, I hope that we have someone who's really good, but I also hope that this job is like an answered prayer to someone, right? And someone who God is hoping
Yeah.
to answer a prayer for, and I have the resources to answer that prayer, and they fit also what we are looking for. I'm
Yeah.
like, God,
True,
please
true,
make it
true.
happen,
Yeah.
you know?
That's true.
And
Yeah.
and I have actually seen that coming to life. So when I said that, yeah, it's very intertwined with like how I think about things, my spiritual
Spiritual.
who I am spiritually as a Christian. I also that's how I think about things. And people think, oh, the Bible just means, oh, that's why I'm able to say this is thorny ground. Like even when I think about like even does that mean I don't let go of people? I do. Does that mean that we don't hold people accountable? We must, because also, you know, if I can say that, okay, objectively and rationally speaking, you are right now you are not working, you're not this, you're not this, you're not that, you know. But I have to ask myself, why are you that way? And is it something I can change? Now, if I feel like, you know what, you're rocky ground and I can't change you, then that's
Yeah.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. That seed
And
won't
sometimes
grow.
to let someone go, you actually make that, because
Yeah,
like when you get fat, I was let go from my company last year, which was very painful because it was
yeah.
following a promotion. And right after that, I
Sorry,
realized
sorry.
like, oh my God, no. I was like, thank you, God, because you finally gave
In
me
that
the
moment
time. No, like
or
after one
later.
day of crying, like after one
Oh,
day of crying,
later is not bad.
I was like, I've been here stressing about planning this She Center project for since 2020. I've been writing down the vision and writing everything that I needed to do. But I had this job because I needed the money. I needed like to do this. And when I was let go from that job, my perspective had to change. Like I had to get to a point where I was like, okay, now what can I do? Like, what do I? And then I realized I have this thing that I've been pushing on the side. Literally, the song I was singing every time I was going to work was, I want to start this thing in Uganda. I want to start this thing. Like, I was talking about starting something that I never had the time to start. And right
Yes.
before they let me go, I had shared this idea with my bosses who validated it and said, this is a really, really good project. It
Good
will be good,
idea.
blah, blah, blah. And so when I left, I was like, not only do I feel like God has called me to start She Center, but
Yeah.
by that time it wasn't even called She Center, it was just female platform. And I was like, not only do I have this vision, I now have the validation from people who I am working for, who have just let me go,
Yeah.
who really like validated me. And in addition to that, I was like, now I have all this free time
To
where I
actually
can sit down to
work.
actually sit down. And for 4 years, from like 3 years, I tried to do all this work, but in less than a year, I was able to do so much. And like you said earlier, you were telling me before we said record started, because I was like, I have this vision, but every person I'll be telling, they'll be like, Resty, we don't get your vision. It's not going to work. This digital thing, someone told me, you know how we are in Africa. These things of digital, they won't work. I was like, now you've empowered me to actually go at it more because you've showed me
Yeah.
that this is necessary. And I was like, okay, I can't go out there and explain myself and what I want to build. Let me start a platform and show people gradually what is necessarily like. How can I empower someone through a podcast? Because people are like, podcast. People don't like. We can do this. That's why even I've pushed myself to do the YouTube thing, because I was like, okay, Ugandans don't want to listen podcasts. Let's go to YouTube. They can also get there and listen to it. But it made me so much, and that has come from the people that I've surrounded myself with. Because every person that I speak to, I've realized, like on the podcast, like every person that I go to and tell, this is what I want to do, whatever input they give me or whatever they're doing informs what it is that I want to do one way or another. Because when I was hearing you talk, I'm like, okay, there's so many things from what Christina is saying that have you heard that?
I did.
There's so many things that Christina is saying that are kind of making me like, they're making me think about something that I've been developing that maybe I was struggling. So it's that, and I realized through not like collaborations, like you said, like collaborations open your mind. You
Yeah.
can sit there and think you are smart with your idea until you talk to someone and the person tells you, my dear, you are like at the beginning of where I am. Like, because some
Yeah.
people have walked this journey, they have gotten to where they are. And that's reason why I felt like this purpose thing can be very helpful for people who are listening, because I reached out to someone to, like, for me, I look at them and I'm like, you're making change. This is someone who is doing good work in community. And they're telling me life right now for them is stagnant. I had to sit down and tell her, do you know how significant the work you're doing is? And she was like, yeah, I actually recently talked to a counselor and they listed out the things I was telling them that are going right in my life. And she's going through a season where she doesn't feel like she's living her purpose, where she feels like, and that could be because of the expectations that are surrounding her, maybe marriage, children, you know how the 30s are. So
Yeah.
I sat down, I was like, it usually sometimes takes you to hear another person's journey of how they have approached life for you to realize, wait, I'm living my purpose. Because some people think purpose means, I don't know, like some
Some massive. Yeah.
yeah, something. But you could actually be like living your purpose as a mom. As a
Yeah.
mom, I keep telling this to people. I'm like, imagine the mother of Nelson Mandela when she was raising her. He was like,
Yeah.
I'm a mom, I'm just a mom. And yet they were raising one of the most influential people in the whole world. Like, if
Yeah.
you see that as purpose, that means every math test that you have to teach this child, like when when your parents were raising you, they were probably, you said that your dad helped you to input this thing on you of like people need to pay something for them to receive whatever. That was a lesson learned, and that's something that I'm sure you have employed in your life. And I know Brenda is also
Yeah.
like that. She thinks so much like
Yes.
that. After interacting with you, I'm realizing you guys think so much alike. But it's those things that make me realize that purpose has over been like, we think people who are living their purpose are people who are doing things like working in the UN, you are an influencer and all these things. And yet where you are, like, you could be selling your tomatoes on the street, and it's just a shift of perspective for you to realize, I'm not just selling tomatoes, I am
Yeah.
helping the community to do this. Like you said, your Tonda app is helping people to be more social. But someone
Yeah.
could just look at it and say, I'm just making an app to make money.
To make
But if
money.
you have no
Yeah.
purpose behind what you're doing, then it becomes nothing. Are you a hairdresser, or are you someone who helps women feel good about themselves?
Yeah,
Are
exactly.
you a makeup artist, or are you someone who helps, like, are you someone who helps women come out and feel, feel empowered with their beauty and everything? So I like that that's something that you have explained very well using your experience and how everything has started up together. And truly, it has to be your gifts and your passions that combine together to use all
Yeah.
this experience to bring up one thing that is, I would say, purpose. And as you said, you might sell this and build up to something better in the future, which I
Yeah.
like very well, because that would be very good. I'm
Yeah.
looking
And
forward
I
to what
wanted
you'll
to
be
just
doing.
I wanted to also add that I think so. I completely agree with you that sometimes I think we overburden our jobs to be our source of purpose, and that may not be the case. So even your job could be how you get purpose. So at my last job, there were I discovered second purpose in that job, and that's when actually I think the birth that love to multiply productivity was becoming more apparent. But initially, that job in itself was, oh yeah, very aligned to my what was my purpose then was to create an environment, make sure that local businesses have access to the right kind of capital, design programs that make sense, and make sure that money is actually utilized and received by the right companies. And I felt like I was doing great. But I then suddenly had a team of about 10, 12 people that I was managing, that I was responsible for. And I was in an organization that didn't have the structure to develop talent, right? So as a company, we had positioned ourselves to be able to attract really, really like smart people, and we were very intentional about like who came. It was a complete meritocracy. But once you got into that door and you're this really smart, ambitious person, we didn't really have processes and systems that helped us nurture that talent, that helped us make sure what we thrived on pressure, challenging like tasks and work, like the projects that used to come through the door were like insanely complicated. So you grow by doing. You grow by doing. You had things, you come out harder. You do hard things, you learn a new skill. But there was no kind of intentionality around how do we want you to be at the end of the year, so that even when
Yeah.
you do something and you're in this project, maybe you could have learned up to 12 additional skills, maybe two additional skills, but because it was kind of like get that work done, as a client, the
Yeah.
client is happy, but the individual who has done that work could have even
Frustrated.
been further.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could be frustrated, they could be burnt out. They could be, oh, I really wish that Christina, you had put me on the financial modeling work and not the business analysis side, because there was no structure around, I've done a lot of
Yeah.
financial modeling. I'm great at it. It gets the work done really great, but I really want to start doing a bit of data analytics and data
Yeah.
science.
Yeah.
But you always give that to someone else because
You've
there was
not
no
grown, basically.
I've not grown you, right? But yeah, like the
Yeah.
client's happy that, but because that maybe the model was complex, you've grown in that way, but that's not how you wanted to grow. So productivity multiplication, you can even have the best people, but I had to become intentional about like growing my team. I then had to learn like, okay, beyond just growing them, there's a lot of compassion, there's a lot of empathy, there's a lot of
Yeah.
relationships, see the human being, and learning that you have to create a completely conducive environment for even the brightest people to thrive. And
Yeah.
I used to ask myself, even me, those large companies that I really started at, they were very intentional about growth. So when people say like, "Oh, Christina, you're very good talent," I'm like, I have to acknowledge that it's not by mistake. It's not by mistake. It's not by accident or by some God made me that way. No, God gave me the right seeds, but I had to be in places where people were
Yeah.
watering my plant. And one of the things that I've seen, like one of the companies, I did my internship when we were in second year at Citibank. And how I ended up at Citibank, I want to say divine intervention, because I remember I was just like, everyone was saying, you boss, guys were getting jobs. And I was just like, I don't want to work in any of these companies. And then I think 2 weeks before you had to like have a deadline. And I was just like, what am I going to do? So I remember at that time I even asked my sister Pumla. She was like, she had I think by then she had joined BOU, but she had been at an insurance company before. So I told her, "When if things fail, just help me and get me an internship at like UAP." I had great grades, right? And I knew I was a good worker. So I was like, I won't be a I'll add value, but I don't want to be there. But if things fail. But somehow, somewhere there was a Citibank advert. They had very strict interviews. I swear they used to interview interns the way they interview like full-time employees. You do an aptitude
What?
test, then a manager interview, then an HR like senior
Wow.
interview. It was insane. Then they assess your competencies based on how you do in the aptitude, how you do in the interview. That's how they place you. They used to take I
Wow.
think about 10 or 12 of us. But Citibank ran a mentorship program. And for them, I think this was like a global thing. But I depending on how you perform your interests, you have like a regular, you get assigned a mentor, you get a plan. You can ask
Wow.
for a mentor. I remember I asked for the CEO. And I remember I just looked at her and I was like, that guy's job, that's the one that looks
The
so
one I want.
interesting.
Yeah. Wow.
But you see, no one was too big to be a mentor. As long as there was
Mm.
alignment. So of course there was
Did
like
they
an
did he accept to be your mentor?
he accepted.
Wow. Now
Me
that's
and another
nice.
guy, yeah. So and they said usually
Mm.
he takes one, but this year, that year he took two. And he was like, but they don't tell you it's an option that you can ask him.
Mm.
So you just like
Mm.
ask. I was like, that's the guy I want to be my. And he was
Mm.
at the time he was a Nigerian. He was called
Mm.
Chinedu. But
Mm.
Like the mentorship program kept the mentors accountable. Like
Mm.
they were scored as mentors. I was like, the
Mm.
CEO is scored as a mentor. And they're like, yes. Because if he's not building the next generation of leaders, then
Yes.
what are we
Yes.
doing? Everyone has to
Mm.
build the next generation of leaders because this bank has to exist for the next 100 years. But what
Yes.
that also does is that it
Yes.
creates really like good people. That he pushed
Mm.
my thinking. It was actually him who like helped me understand that I don't think you want to get into banking. And I said, I also don't
Mm.
think. I think I want to stay
Mm.
in banking, right? The opportunities were there, but I was just like, I don't think that's for me. And it was a journey of structured conversations, intentionality that helped me understand that purpose of, I think you want to work with businesses, start at a company that works businesses, and then find a way to get into the advisory side. And he helped me like map out that journey. He introduced me to another lady, she's called Angela in Sierra. And she was like, okay, this is what Christina wants to do. She was like a senior like manager at Deloitte at
Wow,
that
that's
time.
really good
Like
for an
they were
intern. That's
so
really good work.
an
Yeah.
intern for an
Yeah.
intern, and I really believe that that internship is the thing that like made me I just got a very different approach to work for me.
Mm. Mm.
And
Mm.
so when people say okay purpose, it's like yes, I had the purpose for my business, I had purpose for my staff. Like when I now had a team, I had purpose. And I realized even that mentorship is like the mentor has to find purpose in that role. So even and
Mm-hmm.
that's why there
Mm-hmm.
was an
Mm-hmm.
intention around
Yeah.
matching. They were very intentional about it. No one, you don't get anyone. Someone can refuse you
Mm.
because they say because it also has to come from
They
something
don't merge.
there,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
they have
Like,
to
do I
pour
have
in
something to pour into you?
to pour into you. Can you receive what
Yeah.
I'm pouring into you
Mm-hmm.
also? Do you
Mm-hmm.
have the
Mm-hmm.
capacity to receive it? When I make an
Yeah.
introduction, my network, will you benefit from it?
Yeah, because sometimes we just want someone, but our visions don't
You're
align.
not
Like I
aligned
want
as
this
well.
person, but what I really need is something different. Yeah, that's really right.
Yes.
That's really right.
And if
Yeah.
you missed, I think, two mentor tasks, if they gave you this, give us tasks. Like, remember, it was like it was something like this, do once every month, but depending on your mentor, you could do it more frequently. And even after I left the bank, I said I would see him once every 3 months for a check in for 2 years. I
Wow.
said, a whole CEO of the bank. Like,
I
I
know,
used to sit
right?
there and say, what is that humility? But you see, the
Mm,
organizations have to create those structures. And I think history
mm,
will bring a problem. All these
true.
candidates like, oh, that company is known for ABCD. Now, when you come back for the next meeting, I want you to be able to tell me like what you've understood. You should be able to learn how to do A and B for a company because he understands like where you want to go, what skills. And even because he was a banker and he felt like, okay, now I've outgrown, because now you're getting into view of proper career development, he handed me over to that Angela, who then like because she had gone in
Wow.
a similar line of field, she was now able to push me technically. And because then eventually I did end up at Deloitte, and she was able to now like really help me understand, like, no, think about it this way, or this is a situation happening. So when people say purpose and maybe a friend, sometimes I think even having too much purpose in one place can, and not in your other aspects of life, can make you dissatisfied. It doesn't mean, so even when you're saying someone can be a purpose as a mom, for me, how I define purpose now is I have purpose at work in the way that I do my work
In every
and
season,
what
yeah.
I'm doing at work. I have purpose as an individual, how I wake up. I have learned that I want to, there's I think it's John 10 that says, I'm not very good actually at quoting verses, but there are just a few I know of it, but I know the words and the meaning, but not like chapter this, but yeah, and he says that Jesus came to so that we can enjoy life and enjoy it to its
To the
fullest.
fullest, yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's an
true.
individual experience. Like you have to be able to say, when I say, how do I enjoy life in its fullest? If I'm taking tea, I have to like enjoy that because
Yeah.
I have to learn the
Yeah.
things that I like and make sure that I enjoy those things. I live
Have you read
intentionally.
Ikigai?
No, I've not read Ikigai, but I
You
understand the concept
should.
of Ikigai.
Yeah, it's a yeah, because that's what they're like when you're brushing your teeth, be in that moment, like
Be in that
enjoy
like
it, be
being present.
present.
Be
Yeah,
present to your
yeah.
life. Be present to your life.
Because life
If
can just pass by us, and that's
you
where we
can,
don't find purpose. You're right. Because
yeah.
I recently, most of the sermons I used to. I started a blog called My Favorite Sermons, where I critically would analyze a sermon and write a blog about it. And most of the people, is this like most of my favorite sermons were people who were talking about why am I here? Like
Yeah.
in every room you get into, don't just be there. And my God, when I heard that, I was like, I wish I had a mentor. Like I'm looking at you talking about mentorship. Like I had no mentor in high school,
Honestly,
in
it's a
whatever.
gift.
We need to get mentors from as soon as we stand, I think 12 years old, because that's when you're starting to make like some good decisions, about your
Yeah.
life, about everything. And at uni, it's very important because those are times when we are making important life decisions. Who am I going to date? Who will I marry? What career am I going to take? In your bachelor's, you really don't know what you want to do with your life. You need someone who is doing what you look at, walk around with them and see. Like you said, mentorship is not like I could come to you and after 2 months I realize, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want backing. I want this. I want this. But that only comes from you walking that route with that person. And this person was saying, like, why am I here is very important because you can move into a classroom and if you don't know your why, you will just go into that class and oh my God, there's so many classes I went into, and when I did my master's I was like, oh well, I wish I had paid attention in this
Yeah.
class. Yes, so the why is something that, like, why am I in this recording right now? Like, why am I here? It's not just for me to record you and put the content out there. There has to be a reason why this conversation is happening right now. And if I just record you and just let this be just another recording which I just post up there, then I'll miss what I can gain from you, or we'll
Yeah.
miss what we can gain from each other, and then my life will just go on. I'll be dissatisfied. Like
Exactly.
I'll just be
Yeah.
complaining, saying government to Yambe, and yet, like you could. And also, why am I in this bar? Who? I'm thinking so much about how we used to go to Panamera and Casablanca, and I reached a point I
But I
said,
also think
why?
that sometimes, and I say sometimes the reason is to have a good time. And I think I don't, and
Exactly.
that's why I feel like sometimes purpose is meant to be this thing that we're meant to enjoy life. And enjoying life in its fullness also means maybe you're just meant to have, even sometimes when I'm like meeting a friend, I'm like, why am I meeting this friend today? Because what you're saying is true. Like, but Christina, be present to this
Yeah,
conversation. If
be
something is
present. Yeah,
funny, laugh your
yeah,
heart out.
yeah. Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
and to
yeah.
say that, you know what, I'm
Joy.
living
Yeah.
my life of intention. I'm living my life
Intention.
on
Yeah, that's
purpose.
true.
Like, my life is
Yeah.
not happening to me. I am purposefully going through my
On.
life.
Yeah,
I'm going
that's
to
very
pick
true.
up the food. Today I work out this morning. And I wake up and I work out not because, oh, I have another workout. I work out because
Yeah,
I am someone who lives a
I
life where
need it.
I am intentionally
Yes.
taking care of my
Yeah.
body, and
Yeah.
I
Yes.
feel, I
Yes.
treat myself,
That's
how am I
true.
feeling 2 weeks now
Yeah.
after doing like a consistent streak of this, whatever, of this book I'm
Yes.
reading, of this. So I feel like
Yes.
we have to allow people to find purpose outside. There's purpose as I look at self
Everything.
as an individual. There's purpose in the role you play. If you're a friend to someone, there is purpose in friendship. There is real purpose in friendship. Like
Yes, very
I
true.
never really, that's something I've understood really deeply in my 30s, that there is purpose. How I relate, no, I don't relate with everyone. There are friendships that have
Yeah.
started to die and I'm watching them die and I understand, yes, because they were
You
actually
have
not
to
aligned to
let
the
go
purpose I
some
have in
things. Yeah.
friendship. Yeah.
Like
I
it's not
enjoy
going anywhere. It's a dead
with them,
end.
and they tell me like, and they're vulnerable, and I listen to their stories, and I say, and we cry together or we laugh together about things that matter. And if that's not something you like to do with people, then don't be my friend. Like, I'm not
Exactly. Yeah.
interested.
Very
You
true.
get,
Very
so
true.
there's purpose in friendship, there's purpose in motherhood. What type of mom do you want to be? What books are you reading? How do you intentionally parent? Purpose in marriage. I think there's a life in its fullness, to me, is maybe there are like 6 dimensions every human being has to life.
Yeah.
How can
That's
you
true.
try to live on purpose in all those things? It takes the pressure off, because there'll be seasons that when even you with yourself, you're just like, you know what, this week I've given it, let me just say,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
because there are other
True.
things that you're doing intentionally, because momentum keeps it, you know that maybe I have this podcast. I have to do it because I already scheduled it. So even if the whole week I've costed, at least the podcast is on purpose. Now that's maybe
Yeah.
your work self,
Yeah. That's
and you
true.
can
That's
enjoy
true.
that purpose, as opposed to, I think, the pressure that it can only be one thing at a time. Or for me,
Yeah.
that's like the biggest, I think, relief. And when I keep saying this is life in its fullness, every moment has the thing it gives. Friends give you
Yeah.
joy. Your personal self gives you like wisdom. God, there's purpose in spirituality. Like, you get like, how am I as a Christian? What does that mean? How do I show up every day? How does that infiltrate other things in my life? So even if the whole day I've posted, I've eaten badly, I've not exercised, I read my Bible. Read my Bible, I meditated
Yes.
and prayed. I've lived
Yes.
in purpose
Yeah.
in that
That's true.
aspect. We try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
for me,
Very,
like,
very true.
let us
100%.
expand
Yeah.
the meaning of purpose and
Yeah.
find friends who build you. Read books that build the individual. Find mom friends or read parenting books that build that area.
Yeah.
Or, enjoy, figure out the things that you love. Play tennis, go for a movie, like be intentional, like
Yeah.
fall in love with yourself and love the
True.
people you're around. Be kind. Like there's a day I think I was working from home for like when I said business, I used to work a lot at home before we got an office. And at some point I started to feel like deeply isolated. And I used to just be there and I was just like, like what's this? And then I don't remember what I was listening to, and they were talking about, the best thing you can even do is smile at the person outside, at the guard, at the. And then I said, you know what? I said on my shopping day, I'm literally going to look at everyone in the eye
And smile.
and say hi.
And smile.
You get and smile. And you know what? Like that's what I'm going to do. And that day, I just got so much from that day. This people didn't know me. I was a shop attendant, the guy who helps to find.
Yeah.
Well, where are you selling? About what sponges?
Yeah.
The person who helps us at the house, like at the apartment, like in the apartment
Yeah.
block. I was like, how are you today? How are you today? And now it's something
Yeah.
I do when I'm in a supermarket. I try and say, like, now it's part of me because for that, there was a season of my life where that was where I was getting like human, where that was the thing that was
Yeah.
giving me connection.
Connection.
That's
Yeah.
part of
Yeah.
living on purpose. It's like, what can I do instead? As me, it benefits me, it probably benefits other people, but I'm
Yeah.
feeding myself. So
Yeah.
I hope your friend, if like she finds that things, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be the work itself. It could even be just, yeah, when I go to a
True.
client,
True.
I'll say, I'll be nice to the receptionist and the cleaners. And that can be you because you know that as a person, you're kind. It's for you,
Yeah.
kindness
True.
comes easier. You're a warm person. You're a funny person. So for you, it's easy to make people laugh. Make them laugh. Like,
Yeah. Don't feel weird about it.
don't
That's
feel
very
weird
true.
about
That's very
it.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very true. I love that. One last question I wanted to ask. When you look ahead into your with your purpose, with everything and your contributions growing, what role do you think platforms like She Center can play in supporting women through this process of discovering and evolving their purpose?
I actually, I think exposure is very important. And I want to, one of the biggest things, like when I actually think about the underlying things that got me onto a journey of entrepreneurship, was a podcast I used to listen to. And the podcast I used to listen to is called Diary. I still listen to it, Diary of a CEO. But I was I think I had one episode in my algorithm, it came up, and then I said like listening, and I started to hear all these stories about these really high achieving people. And I liked that what because he also had a similar question of, like what happened? Like who are you? He asks you how you grew up. And when I would hear the stories, I'm like, these guys are ordinary. Like they have ordinary struggles, they have suffered, entrepreneurship has broken them, they have like, and they were honest, but these are really powerful, or like companies we hear about, these are their founders, these are their CEOs, and relatability. And that's what I think exposure gives you. And I think that's why I say, like, if you have to be intentional about who you pour into. So I think what they were targeting was how to create exposure about a CEO, but that's the diary. But they're already a CEO. But who are you? And I said, feel like I could relate with a founder of Netflix. I could relate with a founder of Canva. I was like, this lady, she's regular. Like she did her regular
Yes, I
thing.
saw her
Her
story the other
job,
day. I don't know
her
where. It was so amazing how she
insane,
started it. Yeah, yeah,
insane. And I was just
yeah.
like, "Banange." So there is, I think podcasts allow people to hear stories of people that are not that are not that they would not have in their immediate circle. And I think with She Center, if you start to, as you build your audience, you have to, I think it's important that such platforms are intentional about who speaks on their audience, what kind of information they get out of the people who speak on their platforms,
Yeah.
by learning what their audience likes, what has resonated with you, what is. I think YouTube is great because they do a lot of most replayed scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's very important that you push your content out, and like try to boost it in the little ways that you can, so that you also learn like what are people replaying, which episodes have more, why those episodes, such to understand that the need, because you have to fulfill a need for people, and you get better
Yeah.
at saying, I'm getting like more refined. I think it's so important that women are able to hear other women's stories, even if it's not
Yeah.
women, if it's other men's stories, but that we can hear and say, she's not so different from me,
Yeah.
she's also struggling with this thing. Or, actually, it's okay that my job is not happy. Like, I think it's so important that the content continues to be out there and
Yeah.
accessible for people.
Yeah.
I think there's intentionality on what information you extract from your speakers. I think I'm intentional about who you ask to speak. So that, like now, if it's a theme, it's like, okay, how do I diversify the content so that it's more relatable? So for me, I think even just in this podcast sense, like kudos to you on already doing that. But I would say you have to keep doing that because awareness is important, exposure is
Yeah.
important.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's maybe one thing. I kept wondering. I was like, okay, so how does she get to a place where, so unlike Deriva CEO, these are like CEOs. I don't think there's any like this connection they can't get on their own. But when I listen to your podcast, it's a lot of like women in their 30s, early 30s. There's a lot of that's like a formative period as an adult. I wondered like, okay, so are there similarities? Are there introductions or partnerships that you think, oh, maybe this could be useful, recommendations that you say, oh, by the way, because of ABCD, this may be a good fit for you. You may not even do the introduction yourself, but just how do you share the resources and that it's like there's an intelligence you have because you've listened to all these people and you know all the stories. How do you make the stories like come to light, right? And to the people who are, even to the speakers, and
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully, that's something that can also
Sorry.
benefit them
Yeah.
as people come on as us who come on and speak to you, because you know what's happening and you know who's doing what, and if there's ever something similar, it could be, oh, by the way, this person may be thinking you, maybe it may be nice to reach out
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's like I think for me, within those two things, I feel that there has just be intentionality. I think visibility as well. You can't do everything. There are so many places that are helping women, and women of different like walks of life. How do you find the ones that are aligned to your audience, to yourself, and
Yeah.
partner with them on different things? It allows you to also be reach more people, and let other people know about you, but also let other people know that they can come. This is a place you can come and listen to women who look like you and who are trying to do this thing and figure out this
Yeah.
thing. I think someone
Yeah.
who thinks talks on this podcast should be someone who's not trying to be the norm, who's trying to not be that thing where you said
Center.
like "Nawasoma wagwa." It's like that's not who.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, the person who says that is not the person who's here. That's the person who's
Yeah.
on this podcast, someone who's trying to do something a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
so there are more people out there who need to know that's a thing that's normal. It's also normal to be that way. It's normal to be over ambitious. It's normal to be trying to, honest, or if you want fairness or whatever it is. It's normal to take a path in life that's not what everyone else thinks you should be taking. You
Yeah.
can achieve success in it. It is normal that you're struggling to do it, because struggle is part of growth. So all that, like, just I think there's a lot of normalization for me. Maybe that's because I feel like those podcasts I listened to, and there's even another, I think now, crucible moments. Like, there, I listen to a lot of content because I'm in business, and my mind, for me, the thing that I need to consume is from
Yeah.
people who have built businesses. It has changed. It has actually really encouraged me.
Yeah,
And
yeah, true. I was also very inspired by different podcasts that I've been
there
listening
you
to.
go.
And sometimes you listen to something, you're like, oh my God, like this person, like this one thing
Also
that I'd
there.
put on the side, they've pushed forward and they have gotten to this part of their life, and you're like, okay, so I need to keep pushing. Like that means it's
Yeah.
normal to fail. It's normal to feel like you wake up in the morning and you feel discouraged. You don't feel like you want to keep
Yeah.
going. To hear someone who built like Canva telling you, yeah, those moments are there. You're like, okay, so it's a process.
Really,
Let me
I
enjoy the
know.
journey. Yeah, that's true. Thank you
Yeah.
so
Enjoy that
much,
journey.
Christina. This has very,
Thank you
very
so
been
much,
a very
Christy.
insightful conversation. I didn't see how it was gonna go, but you really like took me into the right direction. I realized why I needed to talk to you. I don't know why. Sometimes I find it like I feel like it's spiritual who I reach out to, because in many cases I find that I needed to speak to that person in this particular, like you're the person I
Yeah.
needed to talk to in this particular season because of the questions that I was having in my head, or some of the things that I was thinking
Yeah.
about. So I'm very grateful to you for taking the time to do this. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how Tonda is going to turn out to be,
Yeah.
and to future collaborations with you, of course.
Yes,
So, yeah, thank you
100%.
so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Christy. All the
no
best.
problem. Please help me spread the word by sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and followers. Let's amplify the voices of women, break barriers, challenge stereotypes, and create a network of support and empowerment. Together, we can bring about positive change and make this world a better place for all. This is She Center, the female podcast, where women's stories matter. I love you all. God bless.